Everyone, welcome along to this video, one that I've been actually meaning to make for quite a while. Um, well, I don't think there are too many people in the community who use FS Tramp anymore. Certainly to fly some of the freeware aircraft. And, well, there's good reason for that. The main reason being, to put it bluntly, it's kind of shit. Um, However, if you want to fly some other aircraft, um, and relatively decent aircraft in terms of sounds and in terms of the flight model, it is possible to do that with P3D using FS Tramp. Um, so I thought what I'd do is a little kind of tutorial. I won't be able to cover everything, but just a kind of tutorial demo here where we're going to fly this A320. It's an A320 CFM engines, 56 regular CEO, from Dublin down to East Midlands. And I thought what we'd do is just kind of talk through what I'm doing. Um, so it's really difficult to kind of recommend this in terms of over the PMDG because it's not going to be quite the same. However, it's good enough that you can fly some other aircraft and experience the soundscapes, experience maybe scratching the itch of just flying some different aircraft. Um, so what I'm using is FS Tramp, and that's FS Tramp 840, which I believe is on bvipilots.net. It's the best version you can get with P3D. You can have it run as an external application. There are some steps you have to take to do that. But once you've got it running as an external application, it's not an in-sim window, it's a separate window. And FS Tramp is basically your FMS. Right? So when I say we're flying an A320, we are not flying an A320 in the way that it has an accurate FMS, or as they would call it in the A320, McDo MCDU, to the real aircraft. We are flying it with Tramp, which is a kind of generic FMC jobby, right? So it's the same whether you're flying an A320 or you're going to fly a 787 or you're going to fly a private jet. Whatever you're going to fly, it's going to be the same. So in that respect, it's not as realistic. However, there are certain things. Obviously, the aircraft is relatively realistic. It's got pretty much the correct fuel burn. It's got the correct flap settings. It's got the correct engines. It's got the correct sounds. So it's relatively realistic. But to point out that the FMC or MCDU or whatever is not going to really be Airbus. It's going to be generic FS Tramp, which is not kind of modeled on anything particular. It's just kind of a generic autopilot. That being said, you can fly some different aircraft. There are, of course, good freeware aircraft and bad freeware aircraft. This A320 pack, which comes with the A318, 19, 20, and 21, with the CFMs and IAEs, is actually one of the best. In fact, in my opinion, the best freeware package you can get. It is relatively accurate in the fuel burn. It is pretty good on the auto throttle and the power settings. Some freeware aircraft you'll find will not be as good. They might have slightly off fuel burns. They might be very overpowered in terms of their flight model, and so that the auto throttle has to do a lot of work maneuvering the throttles back and forward to try and keep the selected speed or altitude. So in that way, of course, they're not quite the same as PMDG. This does not have an FMC, as I said, and you can't do things like choose takeoff D rates properly, or get your V speeds through the aircraft. So there are limitations. But as you can hear, it sounds relatively nice. We're currently boarding with Sim Sounds, and I'm on a sound package that I have for the cabin view. We're at the front of the cabin is where we're positioned for this sound pack. You can get different sound packages for them. So they do okay. And Tramp itself is also not terrible. I mean, put it this way, you really have to know your way around it, but it does have a form of VNAV and it does have a form of LNAV. So you will be able to follow altitude restrictions on SIDS and stars. You will pretty much be able to follow speed restrictions on procedures, and it will follow the procedures as best it can. The VNAV generally does a relatively good job as long as you keep an eye on it. The LNAV is a little bit more questionable. I mean, if you're trying to fly some kind of complicated RNAV procedure with tramp, you are going to struggle. It can do it, but it's probably going to make a bit of a bad job of it as you know, in comparison to the PMDG anyway, which has a more complicated and realistic LNAV system. The other thing that tramp can't do is it can't do missed approaches in terms of having the missed approach in the FMC. The missed approach is not there. So the only way to fly a missed approach is to look at the procedure and then insert the waypoints yourself. But it can do VNAV. It does have a VNAV and LNAV. It does have, the aircraft has auto throttle, of course, and it also has holds, so you can program in holds if you need to with tramp. So you can get by with it. I mean, we used to fly with this all the time on VATSIM. So it's actually doable, but it is a pain, and there are certain quirks that we'll go over. So yeah, we're set on the ground here at Dublin. We need to get a SimBrief flight plan. So let's go ahead and just go through this, shall we? Let me actually I'll turn my NVDA up to, hopefully that will help. So we'll go here to SimBrief. Dispatch. Okay. Aircraft, we're just going to go A320-200, and that feels fine. I'm not going to spend forever on this dicking around showing you how to use SimBrief. You know, that was kind of another tutorial. Right, so the first thing we need to do is set up our fuel and payload. And of course, as I said, there's no FMC for this, so you can't go to an FMC page and type it in. We are going to use TFM. So, what is our block fuel for starters? So 11,200, it'll say 11,280. So we're going to, I need to start TFM, help. See that? So we're in an EasyJet livery at the moment anyway. Right, so we're going to go here, and we're just going to go block fuel, and TFM actually has a really cool feature here, so we can just type in the block fuel 11280. Okay, and that will actually, as you can see, put the fuel in. You can see the full fuel tank, so we've got none in the center. Left main got some in. Right main has got some in. And then the left and right auxiliary tanks have got some in. And the center does not have any in. The next thing and the slightly trickier thing to handle is the payload. So if we go here, you don't actually want your zero fuel weight because we don't have we want to include the fuel in our weight, and I'll show you why. So you actually want to look at your estimated takeoff weight here, which is 144,700 and whatever. So if we do right bracket shift whiskey, we can see what our current weight is. Fuel weight, 11,280 pounds. Payload weight, 29,085 pounds. Gross weight, 131,303, 167,331 pounds maximum. So we're currently at 131,000. So we need to gain about 13,000 pounds to be on point with the takeoff weight that we need. So we can go here to payload. Now, unfortunately, there's no block payload. We can't just type that in. What it does have are the front seats, center seats, rear seats. It shows all the different stations. Pilots, crew, cargo front, center, cargo, and rear. What we can just do is add some more passengers, probably. So this is 5,400. Let's just say if we need to gain about 13,000. So if we add about, say roughly 4,000, 5,000-ish to each, then we should gain that. We can probably, so we're just going to add it on. So this is 5,400. We'll just change this to 9,400. Yeah, this one's 6,800. So we'll change this to 10. We'll just change that one to 11,000. It's center seats as well, so that's probably fine. And then rear 6,500. We'll change it to, I don't know, 10,600. Let's see where we're at now. 143.4, and we needed 144.7. Okay, well that will probably do. We can pretty much say that's it. A couple of passengers missed their flight, whatever. Okay, so you want to get it roughly, the payload is kind of the most difficult thing. You've got to be careful when you change the payload, because if you start changing it drastically, then you will unbalance the aircraft. So when you change it, try not to disrupt the balance. I.e., if you can see in the default fuel or the default payload that there's more toward the front or whatever, then try not to unbalance that. Just add to what's already there. Try and keep it proportional. You should be all right. Right. The next thing we can do is use first officer light. I would recommend to get this. I mean, it's not essential for these freeware aircraft. They are not particularly realistic. They're not going to scream at you if you don't start up the APU. But I prefer to use it. I think it's adds some realism. I'm just going to click on the pre-flight flow. Just going to do that so we can.
Good afternoon, Captain.
Get this co-pilot seated. You'll see they start doing things. So they've made sure our auto brakes on RTO. See here, setting the anti-ice panel. They're sorting our lights out. Setting our altimeter to the local pressure 1018.
I'm going to go complete the walk around now.
And then they're going for the walk around. I'm just going to get them back from that before we program anything else and just whatever. See, they've put the flight director on, the auto throttle. They've put the nav set switch to GPS, which is kind of LNAV, although Tramp is going to obviously take over that. And there we go. And you can see here it shows you your zero fuel weight, shows you your fuel. Obviously, we've already done that kind of thing. You see our gross weight there. And what we can actually do is if we go here to BRF, we can go Shift Tab, Import Plan, and oops, I need to download the plan, don't I? But we can import the plan, and what this will kind of do is the first officer will actually show you kind of a top of descent. That's not the plan. Let's refresh. Yeah, we want to continue on that. Okay, that's my plan saved. So let's go EIDW. Yeah, that's what we want. So I'm going to import that. Say get weather as well. And if we know the arrival runway, then we can put that in, and then it will actually tune the ILS for us. There's going to be runway 27. So you want to shift tab. To this VREF box, which is actually not a VREF box. It's the arrival runway box. Good old first officer never managed to label anything properly. Okay. So we'll X out of that, but we've told it our arrival runway as well. And when we get airborne in this read-only box that currently shows our weight, it will actually show us the distance and a top of descent point, which is not going to be spot on because Tramp is going to, have its own VNAV, but it's a good measure. I know how in payware aircraft you can do right bracket shift D with TFM to see how long you've got to descend. If you want to see a rough figure, you can check in first officer, and because it's got the PLN file, and the PLN file I have actually includes the SID and star waypoints, it's relatively accurate. Right, so now we need to get on to Tramp. Yes. So the main window of Tramp is the map, and then the other windows we're going to focus on are, see at the top you've got two main buttons, Plan and Tools. They're going to be, the Plan button is the button we're really interested in because that's where we're going to go and import our flight plan and make sure our aircraft profile is set correctly. Going down, you've got then your kind of procedures window where all your SIDs and stars will appear and your route list with all your waypoints will appear. Going down from that, you've got maps and things like that. And then as you keep going down, you've got your avionics panel where you'll see the various values, heading, altitude, speed, as well as your flight plan tick box, which you need to tick to load the to start Tramp flying the plan, i.e. kind of turning on the autopilot. To get around Tramp, you can use various means. You can tab around some parts of it. The main thing I use is NVDA screen review. So you don't want to be in object nav, you want to be in screen review. And then you can arrow up and down through Tramp. So we're going to go all the way up. Plan tools. We're going to route the mouse to plan with NVDA shift mic. And then we're going to left click. And it brings up a context menu. So you can see we've got open, which is to open a PLN. Save, this is just save one if you've made changes. Aircraft, that's for your aircraft profile. We're going to go and check that in a minute. Cruising altitude and speed is where you can set your cruise alt and speed for the particular flight. Generate auto route is where Tramp can generate its own route for you, which I don't use. Print the flight plan. And then it's got some recent flight plans there that I've loaded in. We're going to go to open, and it already takes me to my flight plans folder because that's where I've set it up. I'm going to find it here. This one. Yeah. So I've hit enter on that, and I've launched that PLN into Tramp. And you can see it also loads it into the simulator, and so TFM can recognize it. So if I do right bracket W, Delta Whiskey 108 with a bearing of 278, so that is our first waypoint. And this is one advantage of loading in the flight plan from SimBrief that has the SID and the star in it, which is that you actually get the waypoints of the SID and star in TFM. Of course, TFM does not know if you do a direct, so if you get a direct, sometimes it will mess up the next waypoint command, so be aware of that. But other than that, our flight plan is loaded in. The next thing I'm going to do is left click again, go back to plan, and I'm going to go to aircraft. And we're going to have a little look at this profile. So in here, you have to choose an aircraft profile, and a lot of aircraft are included. If you can't find yours, just choose a similar one. And this is kind of the values for your aircraft, right? So, for example, when you depart in a PMDG, you are flying on VNAV according to a certain D rate, and that controls your climb rate, and it will adjust the climb rate to maintain a certain speed if necessary, etc. Tramp doesn't really do that. It doesn't have the relational situation going on between pitch and speed. So if you tell Tramp to climb faster than your aircraft can climb, and you start losing speed, it's not going to pitch the nose down to try and save the aircraft. So you've just got to be sensible about this. So let's have a look. That checkbox is basically just leave it alone. But if you have an aircraft there's two autopilots in Tramp. One interfaces with the default simulator autopilot, which is what we're using because it's compatible. There is a Tramp autopilot that's totally separate from the in-simulator autopilot, but I don't tend to use that.
OK button. Cancel belt button. New button, alt plus save button, alt plus delete button. Autopilot without auto throttle checkbox not checked, alt plus W.
Autopilot without auto throttle. Obviously, we have auto throttle.
Climb grouping. Climb edit multiline, alt plus selected 3200.
Climb. So this is your initial climb rate of the aircraft. So you can set this anywhere between pretty much, I don't know, 2,000 to kind of 4,000 feet a minute, right? It kind of depends on your aircraft and how light you are or whatever. Mine's set to 3,200, but yeah. And the climb speed, that's obviously after 10,000, although Tramp will maintain the climb speed according to your set Mach number, so it's not really that relevant. This is the cruise altitude. It's not the cruising altitude for our flight, but it is the kind of generic cruise altitude with the Mach of 0.79. Descent, this is kind of the default descent value. So again, Tramp will try and maintain a set vertical speed during the descent. Actually getting rained on. I can hear that. Nice. Tramp will try and maintain a set vertical speed during the descent. Obviously, it will meet restrictions, but it will try and descend. So I've put about 1,800 in. You could put maybe 2,000 or whatever. Touchdown, this is the intended touchdown speed. As with most aircraft, I will be controlling the speed after a certain point. But yeah, there you go. That's the touchdown speed that we're aiming for. Obviously, we'll get some SimBrief performance data. So fuel flow. This is so these fuel flow figures here are to help Tramp give you fuel predictions. It doesn't always do a great job, I'll be honest with you, with the fuel predictions. So I kind of just ignore those. But yeah, and these are pretty much correct. 5,500 pounds an hour at cruise. Anyway, these are provided by Tramp. So, yeah. So we can hit OK on that. There's nothing too interesting there. We can look here then at our cruise altitude. So we're cruising, I think. Yeah, so we're cruising at flight level 230. So I'm going to go back to Tramp. I'm going to left click. Cruising altitude. So our altitude here is 35,000. I'm just going to go back to object with you quickly. And I'm going to hit enter and type in 23,000. Now our indicated airspeed, or our Mach number, is thinking we should be at 0.62. Obviously, remember we're only going up to flight level 230. We can actually look. So when we're making our flight plan with SimBrief, what I probably should have done, but when you remember in my SimBrief tutorial where I talked about you can actually go and choose the cost index. What you can also do is choose a set Mach number for your cruise instead of a cost index, because this does not have a cost index function, right? As I said, it's not really like it's not really an accurate FMC, right? So there's nowhere where you can put in a cost index and it will determine that you should be doing that economical speed according to the cost index. You have to choose your Mach number. If I scroll down here to SimBrief, I can go to my flight log. Yeah, and SimBrief, there you go, says we should be doing 0.66. So I'm just going to hand back to Tramp, route my mouse. Oh, okay. I'm going to screen review and then go up because it got. I got knocked out of that window, so I had to. There you go. I screen reviewed up to Mac number and left clicked on it. So it was 0.66. Hey, it looks good. So then we're going to go to this times button, which is closed. I'm just going to root my mouse, left click, and there we go. So we've now told it that we are cruising at flight level 230 and that we want to do Mach 0.66. Right, if we go down here, the first thing we'll see below this proc window or button is EIDW. And we can left click into that, then we're now kind of in our list of waypoints starting with EIDW, which is our first leg, because it's obviously the departure. Now, SimBrief actually put in our SID for us. It's got the waypoints here. We can have a look here. I think it was the EGNX 1 something. Yeah, and EGNX 1 alpha, fair enough. The issue with SimBrief's waypoints that it puts in here is it doesn't have the altitude restrictions, of course. So I'm just going to delete these. So from Delta Whiskey 108, I'm just going to delete these up to EGNX. Now, you don't have to do that. If you import the SimBrief PLN that is called no SID/star, you won't have those waypoints from SimBrief. The only reason I import it personally is purely to get TFM to know which waypoints we're going to be passing on the SID and star, and also so that First Officer Light has a better idea of where we are going. But you don't have to do that. So I've deleted it, and then I'm just going to go up to the top here with home in my routing tree view, and I'm going to Control Tab. And you hear it says no SID associated. So this is the SID selection. We arrow down. You can see we've got all the SIDs here. Now you can have them displayed in two ways. If you context menu key on this, sorting by ETP, I have this unchecked. If you check it, you'll see they are then sorted by the final SID fix. Bambi, FM, bottom, whatever. So you could then go in there and choose the correct one. The way I generally have it displayed, that's actually quite nice. I mean, that's not too bad, is it? I might leave it like that, to be fair. But anyway, yeah, you can expand EGNX, and we can go down here and see all the EGNX departures. You can see, so it says like here, end 1 mic, which is EGNX 1 mic 16, that's for runway 16. End 1A 28 left, that's what we want, EGNX 1 alpha 28 left. So we're going to context menu, and go to associate with flight plan, hit enter. And that will associate the runway, and it will associate the SID with our flight plan, so that the waypoints, along with the restrictions, go into our route. And if we want to see the text description of this departure, we can hit Tab now, and it will show us. Okay, so climb to 3,000 feet or above, reach Delta Whiskey 108. Okay, 9,000 feet or below and direct to Dub, which, I don't know, maybe Dublin VOR, I don't know. Who cares? Direct to that. 23,000 feet or below, direct to EGNX all aircraft 290 knots. So, that is all fab. And I'm just going to show you what we do if we tab around here. So if we tab from here, what other parts do we get to? Well, that is the aircraft display. So it will show us other aircraft around. We can only see our aircraft here. Easy, whatever, 1, 2, 3 is what it thinks we are. Obviously we're not, we're just in an EasyJet livery. And it's got Dublin to East Midlands. We keep tabbing. We've got our nav1 frequency, nav2 frequency, EDF frequency, fly plan M1 checkbox not checked. I will talk about that. The M button or the mode button. Autopilot checkbox is not checked. Then we come to all our boxes here. Our avionics heading and a heading checkbox not checked. That is kind of your heading select / LNAV checkbox, let's call it, where you can change it from heading select to LNAV. Altitude, alt checkbox, which is again kind of where you can change it from like VNAV control to manual control. A vertical speed box, an airspeed box, an IAS checkbox, Mach number, Mach checkbox, again nav1 course, approach mode checkbox, BC, don't even ask, no idea, nav2 course, and we're back to our box here, and if we control shift tab we get to our runways, and you can see it's already put in runway 28 left, so we are all good. We're back to our avionics. So let's screen review back up here then. Past all our avionics, past our runways, and we're going to go to this proc window here, and we're going to route the mouse to proc, and then we're going to do an object nav to the left, so NVDA shift left arrow to get back to the plan tab. So the proc tab, proc is for your SIDS and stars, plan tab is for your main view, kind of all your waypoints. We're going to hit on plan, then we're going to, I routed the mouse to plan with the NVDA shift mic, and then again click, and then it will, there we go, put us back in the plan window, back on EIDW. You can see it now says route R28 left, so that's now there, and it's got all the waypoints here. Route SID 5100, yeah, because we had to be above 3000. You can see it's got here what it calls EOC. This is a waypoint to point out to you that it's going to level off. It means end of climb. Strange terminology, but anyway, end of climb. And the reason you can see here is because it's at 9,000. And that's because there was a restriction at Dublin, remember, or Dub, to be at 9,000 or below. Right, so that's why. And if you see BOD, you see a BOD waypoint, that means beginning of descent. So that is kind of your top of descent point, or means that at this point you will begin descending to another flight level or level. And EOC means that you're going to level out here. And you can see it gives us some information about each leg of our flight plan. So for example, from Dub to ADGO, it will show us here, ADGO, route SID, course 94, altitude in feet 17,500 and whatever, so that's the altitude it predicts we will be at when we reach ADCO. So leg NM, nautical miles, was 16.6, and it was 268 knots. Time 0 minutes 6, 0 hours and 6 minutes. That is, I believe, how long the leg of the flight plan will be. So, i.e., from Dub to ADCO, it will be 6 minutes, I think. Let's see. No, okay, I know what that time is. I actually changed it. So, in the Tools menu, in the settings, you can change whether the time shows as leg to leg, i.e., from one waypoint to another, or whether it shows total air time, and I changed it. So actually, for example, it means at ADCO, it calculates we will have been airborne for 6 minutes and 39 seconds. That might be a little bit generous. But for example, then, if we go down here to our arrival, and I did end for that, EGNX, it says 41 minutes and 5 seconds. So it's kind of calculating at the moment that our flight will be 41 minutes So that's actually quite useful because if you need to figure out, for example, to do a position report, then you can do that because you can simply look at, you can record when you took off, and then you can look at, for example, your oceanic entry point and go, oh, that's going to be an hour and 25 minutes into the flight. I know when we're going to hit our oceanic entry point now. Also, the thing to remember is Tramp does not take into account winds, so you have to account for that. So that's kind of annoying, but yeah, it does show you the times. Right, the next thing we need to put in is our arrival. So again, I've got the star waypoints here, and let's have a look. What arrival are we taking? Ampet 2 Echo onto runway 27. So we've got the Ampet 2 Echo waypoints in here, but it does not have the restrictions again because they're just from the Simbrief flight plan. So I'm just going to go here up to the top of where we've got Ampet 2. Got Ampet 2 on the Lima 15 airway, we don't need that, so I'm going to delete all these waypoints. And I'm obviously not going to delete East Mid. So now we've got a blank arrival again, so we can go and insert that ourselves. And again, if you import the no SID/star flight plan, then you will not have those waypoints from Simbrief. I have them in there just because, I want first officers to know what we're doing. So we'll control tab from EGNX at the bottom of our tree view. No star associated. And here's Ampit 2 Echo. So if we expand this tree view, Ampit 2 Echo 27, so we'll associate that. And then we're going to tab and read the description. Okay. You see there's quite a few speed and altitude restrictions, and the final waypoint on the arrival is Rockhub. So we need to shift tab back to our stars tree view, and then control tab, no approach associated. And we want to go down here to the ILS. And again, I have it set to this. Sorting by ETP is unchecked. And that then shows me this. ILS, localizer approaches, NDB approaches, or circuit pan. Obviously, we're going to go up here to the ILS, and we're going to expand it. ILS 09, EMW1.ILS09. These are now transitions. So, Pigot.ILS09 is the ILS09 with the Pigot transition. Obviously, we're looking for Rockhub.ILS27 with the Rockhub transition, obviously, for the ILS27. There's Rockhub.ILS27, so we've found one. So context menu, go down, associate, and now if we tab, not only will we have the star description, but we'll also have the approach. It's a nice transition. 2000 or above at the initial approach fix and 2 knots. Okay, so that's all good, and you can actually see here we do have the missed approach listed for us. As I said, the missed approach is not included in your routing tree view. So if you need to fly a missed approach, the best thing to do is kind of just hand fly the aircraft, get it away from the runway, and then probably if you're on VATSIM and you can get vectors, then get vectors. If you are offline, then you will have to try and put in the waypoints. You can see here. So we're supposed to climb to 3000, reach the waypoint Delta 268 India. Direct to something or other. No idea what that waypoint is. Anyway, so there's only 2 waypoints on the missed approach procedure, so you could feasibly add those waypoints yourself, and I will quickly show you how to do that in a minute. And what you can also do is if you context menu on this description, you can go to copy arrival procedure as text, and then you can open a notepad file, you can paste it, and then you've got your procedure in there. So that final approach waypoint, Echo Mike Echo, which is I can't remember what that's what it's actually called. But anyway, yeah. So you've got the two waypoints there. You could feasibly add the missed approach waypoints in if you really wanted to, and then you could fly to them if you really needed to. And to do that, we're going to go back to tramp, back to proc, move it to plan, object review.
Turn right, fly 3000 feet, top, turn right,
There we go.
climb to 3000 feet and reach.
That worked? No, it didn't. Let me go back over here.
Screen review, allows total, direct rocket files 09, limit, files 300, CF proc, GZD proc.
Proc.
Tab selected.
Plan.
Object, no previous review mode, proc tab, plan tab selected. Bottom, plan, screen review.
Why it's not letting me? Hold on, I think my mouse might have moved. Oh, there we go. No, it already did. It just didn't move my NVDA. So there you go. You can see below proc. You can see your waypoints, CF27, blah blah blah. So we can route the mouse, left click into the field or into the route tree view, and then we're back, and we can see all our waypoints here now. Right from you can see all these bod waypoints. Right from our first bod there, just after Ampet, going down. You can see Nugra was supposed to be 20,000, then we have another bod, another kind of descent beginning, down here to Trent, TNT. And you can see it changes to route APPR there to say you're on the approach. Begins the descent from 8,000. CF27 just 2,000 or above. It's got it at 2,000. And FF is at 2,000. Now, normally, of course, in the PMDG, you'd change that from 2,000 or above to 2,000, and you can actually do that in tramp. You go here to the waypoint. I'll show you. Context menu. Plan point settings. You can actually set up a simulator pause. We're going to go to set altitude and speed. Okay. Altitude crossing. We go in here and set it 2,000. Altitude after we don't care about, that's for step climbs. Indicated airspeed, we can even tell it the speed. Let's tell it, I don't know, 170 just for argument's sake. And we can then route the mouse to times to close that out. So now if we go back down here to our route tree view, route the mouse, left click, go down. The CF27 is now at 2,000, so it's actually going to plan our descent to be there at 2,000. And then we've got another bod there after FF27, which will be our beginning of descent toward the runway, but of course by that point we should be on the glide. So that is our flight plan set up. We go back to the top of our route tree view with home. Now, I did talk about adding waypoints. If we screen review up here, see there's a find button. We go find, route the mouse, left click, and then go, we've got a find input line. We can actually input here waypoints if we want. I believe it was, well, let's have a look. So, for example, if we wanted to add the missed approach waypoints, D268 Alpha or India, so D268 India, enter, tab. You can see there's two waypoints, ISEX, or intersection, I believe, called Delta 268 Alpha India. And we don't know which one it is, unfortunately, so we're just going to add the first one. And you want to go to flight plan, which will add it to the end of your flight plan. And then we can go back to our input box. We can left click into it after routing the mouse. We'll delete D268 India, and we'll type in Echo Mike Echo. Enter tab. NDB, East Midlands NDB, that's what it is. And there's some intersections as well, but we obviously don't want any of those. We want the NDB. Again, to flight plan. Go back down here to proc, And we're going to go plan, route the mouse, left click, same as usual, back down with screen review. Here we go. So we got that. East Midlands runway 27. And then would you look at that, we've now got 2 waypoints at the end, D268 India and Echo Mike Echo. We also know that D268 India, I believe, was supposed to be 3,000 or above. I'd have to double check. No, 3,000 feet. So we can actually go there, set altitude, speed, 3,000 times, back down here, there we go, 3,000 feet there. It actually thinks we can climb to 3,000, or climb to 4,000 and then descend to 3,000. That's not quite what I meant. Anyway, but anyway, we can manually put 3,000 in if we had to. So that's kind of how you can build a missed approach. If you need the waypoints in there, and then all you would do is just take a direct to the first, waypoint and fly the missed approach. Kind of a botch job, but there you go. It's there if you need it, and that's how you can add waypoints to your flight plan if you need to with Tramp. There's a lot of other things you can do, but we'll kind of demo that in a bit, shall we? Right. Back up to the top here, and we will close the main door. Make sure our seatbelt signs are on. Still getting rained on, aren't we? And boarding is obviously complete. Also make sure your FS Tramp is in M1, so if we go down here, look, with the screen review. Flight plan M1, it's right at the top of your avionics panel, and if you root the mouse, object review, you've got flight plan and then an M button, which you can move to. You can change to M2. The difference being M1 is fully automated, M2 allows for the glide slope and localizer to take over from Tramp when you are ready. So it's kind of an additional step you need to do alongside approach mode. So it's M2, flip it over, and then hit approach mode. So at that point, you will be able to intercept the glide slope and localizer. If you purely do approach mode in M1, the Tramp will continue controlling your altitude and heading, and it will not allow the ILS to take over. Right, we can do before start flow. This will start up the APU and also turn on our fuel pumps. There you go. You can hear the fuel pumps have come online. Beacons coming on. Turn our sounds up a bit. Now, of course, I think it's done with it. Yep, okay. I don't think it actually did start up the APU, but no matter. We can plan our pushback.
GSX 5 GSX departure clearance requested. Select operator at gate 145 select handling operator 1 liner FR GSX 22 liner FRBLUE.
Okay, really? Well, we have to choose Ryanair then in an EasyJet Airbus livery. That's quite funny. I don't know why we have no other. No other liveries, but there we go. Or no other operators for the ground. And we're going to push back anyway
360
to probably to the nose left.
one of the masks towards you and press the opening firmly over your nose and mouth. Then assist any children.
Departure checks completed. Bypass pin
Your life
inserted.
jacket is under your seat.
Now, in terms of engine start, First Officer has an engine start procedure. However, it doesn't work with some of the freeway aircraft, so I'm not going to use that.
Then pull the belt until it is tight.
You can manually assign keyboard shortcuts to
If necessary, use the rubber tube.
start the engines if you want to introduce fuel and that kind of thing. I haven't done that. I don't fly the freeway aircraft enough to warrant me doing that, to be honest. I did used to have it all set up where I could start one engine and then the other by hand, but yeah, you have to do it within P3D. And I when I got my new laptop, I didn't reset it up. So we're just going to use the old Control E, which will automatically start the engine. So just pretend it's an automatic start.
Illuminated escape path markings will guide you to these exits, and please keep in mind that the next available exit might be behind.
This woman's still yapping in the back. I don't know. Yeah.
Questions, please do not hesitate to ask one of your flight attendants. Ladies
Oh, we won't.
We are now ready for takeoff.
Yep, we are.
Parking brakes, please.
Hey, release parking brakes.
Parking brake off.
Parking brake off. GSX engine push. All engines clear. Start at will.
All engines clear. Start at will.
Right, let's get our engine started. Let me whack the sound up because they are good sounds. This is a good sounding aircraft despite it being free wet. So I'm going to turn speech off, and we'll get CFM starting up. You can hear the wheels. We're just pushing back.
Engine 1 cut out.
Cabin is ready.
Thank you. Cabin is ready. So engine 1 is almost stabilized. Engine 2 is just coming on at the same time, which is not very realistic, but yeah, well, whatever.
Please set parking brakes.
Well, that was very fast.
Parking brake on.
Waiting your confirmation for a good engine start.
Oh, there we go. We've got two good engines.
Taxiway link 6 to the EIDW.
Okay, it did push us back onto a taxiway. Let's also tell GSX
GSX captain. Cockpit ground. You have an engine start. You can disconnect.
get out of here.
Unlocking gear.
GSX
All engines stable.
Thank you. Very nice. We'll pretend we're taxiing if we like.
GSX contract disconnected. Like hospital.
Disconnected.
Right,
Bypass pin removed.
they're disappearing. Let's go over to Simbri. There's one thing we do need to do is get some performance data now. I did say that we cannot enter the performance data, and that is true. However, that does not mean there are not some things we can do with this. We can get some V speeds, and we can check our optimum flap setting, and we can also kind of just so you can't do a takeoff D rate, right? But for example, we know that in a Boeing, if you're in a Boeing, the takeoff 1 D rate is minus 10% from maximum N1. Takeoff 2 is minus 20. You don't get that in an Airbus. You just get Toga or Flex. So So we can't really do much with that. So we'll probably just take a toga takeoff. But if you were in a Boeing, you know, a 787 or I don't know, 757 or something like that, then you would at least be able to kind of figure out, hey, okay, we need to be at, I don't know, 80, 90% thrust, kind of that style thing.
Mainline takeoff performance. Calculate takeoff speeds and thrust. Set applicable reset parameters. Table populate from last flight.
Populate that.
Takeoff performance. Airport search for an airport. Runway 8652 feet. Heading level 2.
Runway is set. Flap will leave an optimum. Thrust, we can only do, I think, toga or flex, so it's probably going to give us a flex, but we'll just ignore it. Bleed, yeah, whatever. Wind, let's just go populate weather, calculate. Look. So bleeds on. Flap setting is 1, apparently. Thrust setting flex. And an assumed temp of 59. Not very useful info for us, obviously. But we know we'll just do toga probably. So V1 138, 142, 143. So we will hand fly the rotation, and then I will turn on tramp. Okay, etc.
Starboard locking 41.44 connected button. Voice X button. Pre-flight flow after pre-taxi CH before start flow pre-flight CH after start flow button.
And then just click on the after start flow and have it do our after start things. There we go. You see it turns the torpedo heat on, and should turn off the APU. Not sure if the APU already shut down. Taxi lights on. There we go.
Flaps 50.
Also set flaps 15, which is the freeway aircraft have a habit of resetting the flaps to 0 when we spawn, so we'll do the flaps ourselves. We're going to go EIDW 28 left, context menu on this, skip to here, position. Okay, there we go. Will be positioned, and we're going to go before takeoff.
Before takeoff checklist. Set. Checklist complete. Check the flaps.
Okay, we're going to go runway guidance, we're going to go attitude mode, we're going to go retrim off flaps. Just right here, the flaps, you don't hear that much at the front. Oh, actually, I set them to 2. We only want 1, don't we? There we go, flaps 10. So obviously TFM reads flaps 10. That's because it reads flaps 10 in terms of the degree of flap, but it's when with Airbus, of course, it's position. So position 1, 2, 3, whatever. So that's why it says 10 degrees, but we're not in a Boeing, so we kind of know that that's position 1. Right. So what I'm going to do, here we go. What I'm going to do is take off, and then when we get airborne, I will hit Z, turn on the autopilot, I will tab to tramp, and I will hit Shift F12, I think, to turn on fly plan. And that will then begin following our SID. Now this Airbus, despite being free, does have automatic flap retraction at the correct speeds, as per the real aircraft. And the auto throttle will also kick in. I'm going to turn on the auto throttle when I turn on the autopilot, and then we will actually begin following the flight plan. Enjoy the sounds. Let me turn up NVDA so that I can hear it over the aircraft, because it might get kind of loud. Let's hope that all goes well, and I'll see you once we get airborne. Right.
Parking brake off.
Okay, brakes released. We'll go about 40%. Okay, looking good. Toga.
Thrust set.
Oh yes.
Feet aligned. Check. Feet brake arm. 80 knots. Check.
V1, rotate,
Ignoring that.
V2,
Up 2, up 3, up 4,
E2,
up 6, up 7,
positive right. Landing gear up.
up 11, up 12, up 13, up 14,
Okay, gear up.
up 16, right 5,
Keep that nose about 15 degrees if we can.
up 6, right 4, right 5,
400 feet.
up 18, up 19,
We're going to go put tramp on.
1000 feet,
DNAV on. Heading select on.
right 7, right 10, locking, logic ready,
Acceleration altitude.
right 7, right 6, right 5, right 4, right 2, over 0.
And tramp now has control.
SD hold active.
We're going to put auto throttle on.
2000 feet,
It's going to hold 240 knots.
77.
And we can turn runway guidance off.
2,300 feet on it.
And off we go.
2,400 feet on it. 2,500 feet on it.
Go right bracket shift A.
Autopilot instruments disabled.
Stop it from reading the autopilot instruments.
202 knots indicated.
Passing 200 knots. There goes flaps up.
Next waypoint. Done. Distance 5 nautical miles. Bearing 23 degrees 1 minute 17 seconds.
And so we should be making a left turn here in a minute
Attitude up 9. 4,000 feet.
to dub, or the, I don't know, Dublin VOR or something like that. So we'll keep an eye out for that. Might be a right turn, I'm not sure. Yeah, probably a right turn actually, not a left turn.
5,000 feet.
We're not quite at the Dublin VOR. Oh, there we go.
Checked.
Right 10, right 9, right 10. Right 11.
There we go, making the right turn. And you also heard first officer there
Right 12.
go and set the
Right 13. Right 14.
standard pressure.
Right 16. Right 7. Right 18. Right 19. Right 20. Right 21. Right 22.
Okay, so yeah, we're making the right turn.
6,000 feet.
And we're climbing to 90, viable 90, where we needed to be for the just 9,000 or below at dub.
FS tramp active type 4144 restart. Shutdown for EIDW.
I will
SNS spread between 20, 20, 20, 20, 18, 16.
slightly turn down.
6,000 feet. Restart button. After landing secure. Button shutdown after the X button. After the
After takeoff checklist.
That and do after takeoff.
Landing gear. Up and off. Flaps. Up. No lights. Checklist complete.
Yeah. Quite bumpy going out of Dublin here. But you can see here,
240 knots indicated.
240 knots,
2,320 feet.
climbing pretty nicely
2,300 feet.
at 2,300 feet per minute. It's not climbing at the full vertical speed that we specified because it's got a restriction, and it's smart enough to do that anyway. And then it's going to level out here at 9,000. So we're saying it's a bit of a rubbish thing, FS Tramp. It does at least have VNAV in a way, and it's not going to bust restrictions.
9,000 feet.
There you go, you can see we're leveling out at 9,000, and then shortly we'll start climbing again once we're past this point. If we go to Tramp here, and we screen review to the top, oh, there we go, we've just gone to a new waypoint, and probably, there we go, look, beginning the climb, there we go, because we just passed dub, so we can start climbing again. See this line here, shows we're going to add goal. It shows it's 50 miles, and we can use TFM to see that as well. There we go, 10,000 feet. It's doing that. TFM shows that as well. And you can see it's trying to increase to 270 knots in the climb. And I mean, that sound, that's the reason we do this, right? I mean, that you can't beat the scream of the CFM. The one thing
259 knots indicated.
that's actually quite good.
12,000 feet. 256 knots indicated. 13,000 feet.
Climbing very nicely.
2,700 feet per minute.
Actually brought the vertical speed down a bit, which it will do as you get higher. It will bring the vertical speed down, but it's not perfect, so you really need to keep an eye on your airspeed and make sure it doesn't drop off too much. If you start seeing the aircraft struggling, then go tramp, tab over here, your vertical speed box, for example. Here you see we got 2,600 typed in. If I wanted to override this and do, I don't know, 1,500, type in 1,500, hit enter, and the aircraft, as you see, if you do left bracket V, is set to go to 1,500. If you do right bracket V, you can see in real time the vertical speed's coming down. If I then decided actually I want to give it back to tramp, go to the alt checkbox,
VNAV off, VNAV on.
recheck it, and you'll hear it say VNAV off, VNAV on. But now the alt box is checked, and it's back to climbing at 2,800 feet a minute as per the tramp vertical profile. Same with the heading. Heading is 094 at the moment, and that's the tramp lateral navigation, LNAV doing that. Here we're on 94. If ATC said turn left heading 080, we go in here, type in 80, aircraft starts turning left. There you go, it starts turning left to 080. And then if we want to go back to tramp's kind of LNAV, we go to this checkbox here,
Heading select off, heading select on.
hit it, and don't worry about it still saying checked. It doesn't report the state properly, but you can see the heading's now gone back to heading 105, making a continuous right turn here, and it's actually going to follow our flight plan. We're going to end deck here, which we can be 23,000 or below. And then we're just going to sit at 23,000. Now remember, I talked about first officer. So if we go here to our route tree view, it shows you the local time, 1240 GMT. It shows you the distance, total distance in your flight plan, 163, and our TOD is 97 nautical miles, roughly. Okay, so we're climbing all right.
19,862 feet ASM. 20,000 feet.
So you can see it works. It works okay. It's flyable. There's no major issues with it. Is it perfect? Not by a long shot. But as you can hear, this is one of the better aircraft. It keeps the power in quite well. It doesn't kind of move the engines back and forward all the time. It sounds pretty realistic. Still climbing at 2,200 feet a minute because we are very light. So we're still steaming up here. But yeah, it sounds pretty good. So if that's what you want, then you can get that. But it is obviously using FS Tramp, which is this slight downside, and it's going to level us out here at our cruising altitude at 230. Here we go, look. Leveling out. Perfect. So it's not overshooting, it's doing a good job.
23,000 feet.
23,000, there we go. and we know that our descent will be coming up soon.
Mach 0.62.
And have a look at our Mach.
Mach 0.61.
And now we can see that we're still currently, and this is what Tramp will do, is still holding 270 knots. If we want it to go to Mach, we have to flip it over. Now, at least I do, because I have it set to manual.
Airspeed hold off. Mach hold active.
So I've just done Control M in the simulator. You can also hit the Mach checkbox in Tramp,
Mach hold 0.61.
and we can see it's now set to hold Mach 0.61, which is equivalent to 270 knots in the climb. I need it to hold, I think it was 0.68 or something, wasn't it? Sim brief, I don't know. Let's try 0.68.
300 knots.
It's 300 knots, so that's probably fine. We can do that. So there we go. We've typed that in, and it's spooling up. So that means I have control of the speed at the moment, but I will probably give Tramp control of the speed during the descent. But I've typed the speed in, just like if you went into the PMDG FMC and you typed in a cruise speed, then yeah. Gives us a bit more speed. To go to sim brief here, we need to get some landing data in preparation, don't we? Oops. Go up here. Calculate weather. And we can go here. Flap setting is full, that'll be fine. And optimum. So we'll tell it to calculate and we'll see what it gives us. There we go. Setting full. So it's auto low. So we'll do auto brake 1. VREF 134. So that means our V-approach is a 139er with +5, which makes sense, and we are a very light A320, obviously, for such a short flight as well. And it's showing, yeah, it should take us, well, call it 6,000 feet of runway to stop. So yeah, we have more than enough. We can also turn off our seatbelts. Forgot to do, but there we go. Do it now. So yeah, if you look here, so top of descent is in about 60 miles, so we'll see how well First Officer has calculated that. So we're looking good.
Prep 3D, 14, 12, 10, 8%.
And P3D down a little bit. For the moment, yeah, I mean it sounds alright. Engines are quite loud. Because we're at the front cabin sound pack, so we can
Form 1 row 1 column 2 connected by voice basic X buff after shut doesn't CHK.
Descent checklist.
run our descent checklist in prep.
Recall. Checked. Nose. Checked. Auto brakes. Set. Landing data. Checked. Approach briefing. Completed. Checklist complete.
And
Locking not in register, prep 3D register V5.
me
Auto brake position 1.
change our auto brake back to 1 because it set it to 3. And we can also choose EGNX to 7. And yeah,
Distance 13 nautical miles, bearing 95 degrees 1 minute 47 seconds.
we are just waiting for our descent, and then we'll begin the approach. It's quite a long approach. Normally you'd get vectored into East Midlands, but we are following the full rock-up transition, wasn't it? So it's quite a long transition. That's a bit unnecessary, but we're going to follow it anyway because we don't have ATC to vector us.
Next waypoint, NXA. Distance 9 nautical miles, bearing 111 degrees 1 minute 13 seconds.
So as I say, I mean, the advantage of this is you get to fly some very different sounding and performing aircraft, from more modern aircraft like the 787 to the really old style, you know, I don't know, Lockheed TriStar, which I think I've done on the channel before, to the various McDonnell Douglas aircraft and that kind of thing, to the more, you know, the A350, A380, and you get to fly them all, and they all sound unique and they all perform slightly differently, which is really cool. Yeah, I mean, it obviously doesn't feel as immersive as the PMDG, and it's not something I would do all the time because you don't get the same system depth, which is fairly obvious. So, you know, it kind of gets to a point where you've done a couple of flights and it's kind of like, yeah, I've done that. I would like the system depth to be back again, so I'm going to jump back in the PMDG. But it does help to just mix things up a bit. Now, whether it's worth it to pay for P3D if you don't already have it, and pay for you know, tramp and things to just mix it up a bit, is kind of up to you. I would suspect for a lot of people it's not, but since I already had P3D, I already had FS Tramp, of course, because I mean this, and the cool thing is, I mean, for me, I know Tramp very well because this is how we used to fly. I mean, for people who are coming into the community now, PMDG is kind of the gold standard and that's it. But for years and years, I mean, this is what we used, and this is all we had. And so we knew what the best freeware aircraft were, and we knew how to get around FS Tramp's quirks, because that's what we had to do. And we flew on Vatsim, we did cross the ponds with it, we did everything, and it started out disastrously, but by the end we knew how to use it. And yeah, and then PMDG came along, and it was all kind of like, wow, this is This is revolutionary, but I do occasionally like
Approaching top
to
of descent.
come back to tramp. Okay, so first officer says we're approaching top of descent, so we are prepared for that. We'll see what happens soon. And yeah, so the other thing to note about tramp is that it does not have manual vector
Distance 15 miles. Bearing 125 degrees 1 minute 58 seconds.
manual vector waypoints, right? So if you have a star that has a vector and you were on with ATC, you have to know where the vector is and you have to manually switch to heading select mode. So remember that as well. If you have a vector, it's not going to just fly the vector for you. That used to trip people up all the time with tramp back in the early days, because they'd be flying along happily on the star, and then suddenly ATC would come along and say, "Why have you turned onto the approach?"
80
And
altitude,
it would
20,000 feet.
be, "Oh, there you go, beginning descent to 20,000 feet." So yeah, first officers was pretty spot on.
Master copy that. Raises in front of 3, 64
Turn
Descent
this
to
up a
12%.
little. And what we can do, since we're beginning descent, I will just
Airspeed
switch
voltage,
to
left roll.
airspeed hold.
Hold 311 knots. 41 road, sim brief. FS tram, common 4 forwards, EMO ZS, property main. Property, list. Now to 88
And
feet,
for
traffic,
now,
altitude, alt check, vertical speed, and speed, 311
let's just
X.
hold,
Check,
I don't know,
speed,
280
knots.
knots, shall we? That would probably
Hold 280. Locking.
make some sense. But yes, so people would be flying along and then it would turn onto the approach. So you've got to know, you've got to look at the approach description, which you should be doing anyway, and then just figure out, okay, after this waypoint,
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now beginning our descent, and therefore we ask you to fasten your
21,000
seatbelt
feet.
again and bring your seat in an upright position. Please don't forget to switch off all your electronic equipment now. Thank you. If you
yeah,
Next waypoint. Number. Distance 23 nautical miles. Bearing 100 degrees 3
woman
minutes.
is
4
yapping again.
please proceed to any service counter immediately after your arrival. Should you already have a boarding card, then go to one of the display boards in the airport and double check your departure gate. If your luggage is already checked through to your final destination, you don't have to worry about it. It will be transferred automatically. For further questions, please feel free to ask the cabin attendants or our ground personnel upon arrival.
20,000 feet.
So yeah, you just had to look and you just had to see, okay, after this waypoint we need to fly heading, 050. You go, okay, I'm going to switch to heading select and then I'm going to put the heading in. And you can see we're now leveling out at flight level 200 for a second on our descent because we have a altitude restriction. And then soon enough we will be able to continue the descent. But I'm just leaving Tramp to do all this. Tramp is dealing with VNav, so it's actually quite good. It's not. I would pay attention to it, see what it's doing, but it's not like you've got to be hands on the whole time. It does have a calculated vertical path that meets the restrictions. As you can see, we're leveling out now, so yeah, it's doing okay. It is okay.
Next waypoint, Vega, distance 13 nautical miles, bearing 88 degrees 1 minute, 59 seconds.
So we're going to our next waypoint. The other thing you might be wondering is how do you do a direct in the flight plan? If we go here and we go, so where are we? So at Vega we need to be at 19,400, so we're actually going to start descending again soon. But we can do directs. Right there, TNT. We could actually take a direct to Trent if we want, so if we go here, fly flight plan from here, that will begin a direct to the next waypoint, and it will move Trent to the top of the flight plan basically. We can go up here, Trent 18.8 miles, so we can see that it moved it. But it hasn't really changed much because it's pretty much a straight shot, straight line. So it didn't really do anything, but there you go. You can do a direct as per. And what I'm actually going to do before, well, I don't think we've descended yet, have we? No, I'm going to give, give Tramp the speed, and you can see it's going back to 250 knots. That's because there's a speed restriction. So I'm going to give Tramp the speed and just let it control the airspeed so that it can meet the speed restrictions. And we will just give it some speed brake and whatnot if we need to.
Next waypoint, TNT, distance 12 nautical miles, bearing 86 degrees 1 minute, 50 seconds.
So we are
19,000 feet.
Going to Trent, and we are also descending now. Put our seatbelt signs on. So you can see here, it's trying to hold 250, and it's at 290 at the moment. So it's still trying to, slow down basically, but it's descending. So this is where you've got to watch it, and if it needs, put out some speed brakes. You know what I mean? So yeah, you're not going to get a drag required message on your FMC. You're just going to have to look at where your speed is at, and you'll see that you need to put out some speed brakes to help it out. But it's doing a decent job. There we go. Speed's come back nicely, so we're not too worried.
17,000 feet. EIDW disabled. 260 knots indicated.
Keep retracting our speed brakes a bit. And this aircraft does come with an auto land. Not every aircraft does. Some freeware aircraft you have to install an auto land into it, which you can do. You can add an auto land system, but this aircraft package that you can download, the A320 series, actually does come with an auto land gauge. Okay, so it's doing okay. It's still overshooting on the speed a little bit, but it's coming back pretty nicely.
Distance 12 nautical miles, bearing 90 degrees 2 minutes, 15 seconds.
That sound is when Tramp selects the next waypoint, by the way. And yeah, so we know the ILS frequency. I know it by heart. 3 SMIDs is 109.35. It's not tuned yet.
115.70, course 91, 490, TNT.
It's tuned to the Trent VOR. So Tramp has automatically tuned the Trent VOR on our nav radios. First officer will tune the frequency for you in a little bit, and if it does not, then we can tune it manually, but first officer should go ahead and just do it for us. So we'll keep an eye on that. Still got a bit of speed brake out. We can probably retract that speed brake now, actually.
Master down. Razor center 3D. 40-16%.
Be through the upper bit more. And yeah, so we're now descending.
Pause. Sound off.
Whoops,
A. Unpause. Sound on.
didn't mean to pause the sim.
Taking altitude. Hold 8,000 feet.
We're actually descending to 8,000 feet, where we will
13,000 feet.
sit for a little bit and then continue our descent via the
EGNX.
procedure.
Distance 40 nautical miles. Bearing 165 degrees 2 minutes. 43 seconds.
Now, so you can see TFM's just switched to showing the next waypoint as EGNX.
Next waypoint. EGNX. Distance 40 nautical miles. Bearing.
That's because the flight plan does not have the approach waypoints in it, the Simbury flight plan. So, from this point on, we're just going to ignore TFM's next waypoint feature, because obviously it makes no sense. We're now flying on the approach, which only FS Tramp will know about.
ILS at glide slope alive.
Hold 220 knots.
Okay, so we're trying to slow to
243 knots indicated.
220 knots,
12,000 feet.
and you heard First Officer set the glide slope, so we can see now
109.35. Course. 270.
that has been tuned. So we should be prepared. So basically, when we hit the initial approach fix or CF27, I will turn on M2 to allow Tramp to give us control, and then I will hit the approach mode in the aircraft to actually allow the aircraft to gain the glide and localizer.
242 knots indicated.
Okay, we're struggling a bit to slow down, so I'm just going to put out a bit more speed brake. A little bit of a slippery aircraft, just trying to slow down to 220.
FS Tramp Roking 1 Lockheed Martin registered. Weather 3D registered V5. 235 knots indicated.
So we'll help it out.
100 feet per minute.
Shouldn't need much. We're not descending very fast anyway.
228 knots indicated.
We can probably retract the speed brakes and go flat 1.
Minus 500 feet per minute.
We're just descending nice and slowly at 500 feet a minute,
10,601 feet ASL. Time and to destination. 1 minute 56. 221 knots indicated.
and ignore that. And we got there we go, back at 220 knots. So we're looking all right. But yeah, we're just going to fly this whole procedure, so it might take a little while.
$10,000 feet.
Passing 10,000 feet.
Landing on. Taxi on.
Okay, and first officer's just wanked on our landing lights. You can see
Minus 1,200 feet per minute.
descending a little bit more steeply.
233 knots indicated.
It's just overshooting a little bit on the speed, so it's just bringing the throttles back. And then we should be leveling out at 8,000 here in a minute, I think.
9,000 feet.
Passengers fastened.
And there's sim sounds telling us the cabin's ready. Still quite turbulent. There we go, leveling out for a second.
8,000 feet.
Glide slope is allowed. Nav 1 has localizer. Localizer is allowed. Runway heading 89. Nav 1 has glide slope.
AD altitude, 2,000 feet. Ripley Inlet, United Kingdom, 0.5 nautical miles, 211 degrees.
Okay, so we're now beginning our descent to 2,000 feet, which is obviously our final intercept altitude. And
Hold 250 knots.
Tramp is still controlling the speed. At some point, I will probably take over the speed.
.238 knots indicated.
Obviously, yeah, as usual, it's overshooting on the
7,000 feet.
speed. Bit of speed brake.
FS Tramp roll 1 column E1 hold 250 knots. Property made list. Flight plan. Altitude altitude check. Vertical airspeed EIDW 250.
Yeah, I will just take the speed and put 210 knots in and just start slowing us down a bit more.
.6,325 feet ASM. 224 knots indicated. .6,000 feet. .215 knots indicated.
Okay, speed's looking quite a bit better.
5,366 feet ASM. Minus 1,200 feet per minute. Spoilers out. .5,000 feet. In cloud. Out of cloud.
Doing a bit of cloud surfing here, according to TFM.
.4,547 miles. Airspeed EIDW 200.
Let's, I don't know, let's bug up
Hold 180 knots.
180 knots. The aircraft starts slowing down. select flaps.
Flaps 10.
2. Is that 1 or 2? I don't know. Whatever.
AP altitude, 1900 feet. $193 knots indicated.
Yeah, speed's coming back alright.
No next, minus 1,000 feet.
Have a look. How far are we from?
This is AC1, this is start 1/2 SEOS, 1/2 D114X, 1.2 and 0.
Oh yeah, okay, we're just about to pass this waypoint, and then hopefully soon we'll be turning in on the ILS.
Transition altitude. Checked.
Altimeter, 1017, 30.03 inches dot. AP altitude, 2,000 feet.
Thank
Start
you.
at 1/2 CF27, 4.9 and 0.
So, turning towards
131.
CF now.
192 knots indicated.
Try and maintain that speed if we can.
Heading hold 155. Heading hold 156.
So making a right turn around to the ILS.
Starting ABPR up. And 280 flight plan, M1, flight plan, M button. M button pressed.
I'm going to flip us over to
Flight plan, enter checkbox checked.
M2,
Heading hold 180.
and then in a minute I'm going to arm approach mode.
Autopilot heading HD altitude 186 knots indicated. 3,053 feet ASM. Minus 1,000 feet per minute. 3,000 feet.
Putting a bit of power in there as we make the turn.
Heading hold 205. Heading 186.
Wait till we've swung round a little bit more.
Heading hold 229. Heading 215. Locking up, lock.
Approach hold on. Heading select off.
Approach
There we go, so heading select went off. That means we've just captured the localizer.
Flight 33. 799 up. Flight 27.
And we'll continue descending.
27 up. Flight
We
21.
can probably actually, well, we're going to level out here at 2,000.
1,900 feet. AP altitude 2,000 feet.
Intercept.
1,900 feet. AP altitude 2,000 feet.
Don't worry about that. It's changing that as the
AP altitude 1,900 feet.
Flight 5.
AP altitude 2,000 feet.
740
AP altitude checkbox not checked.
So what we're actually going to do now is go here to fly plan
M2.
and turn it off.
Flight plan, enter checkbox checked.
600.
We haven't turned the autopilot off, but we've turned fly plan off
665 up.
because we've now intercepted the localizers, so we don't actually need to follow the waypoints anymore.
24 up. Left 2.
And the aircraft's just going to level out here at 2,000.
Autopilot heading HD altitude check. Vertical speed and speed edit 181. Selection
I'm going to wind our speed back to 170 knots.
Left 1. 480 up. Left 1. 444 up. Centered. 406 up. Centered. 362 up. Centered. 320 up. Right 1. 267 up.
Locking Martin registered breath.
212 up. Right 1.
Looking alright.
Speed edit 170. 171. Selection 6 0.
132 up. Right 1.
May as well bring our speed back now to
Speed check.
Right 1.
160.
Landing gear down.
Okay, landing gear down as well.
8 down. Right 1. 56 down. Right 1. 102 down. Right 1.
Gears down, and we should begin descending very soon on our glide slope. There we go. Let's plug in our final approach speed, which was 139.
206 down. Right 1. 200 down. Right 1. 192 down.
Speed check.
Right 1. 160
Flaps
down.
20.
Keep
Right 1.
flaps coming out,
169 down. Right 1.
and flaps full, which was our final flap.
Right 1. 183 down. Right 1.
Flaps 35.
194 down. Right 1. 201 down. Right 1. 205 down. Right 1.
Look form 1 column 3 freest. Secure landing CHK.
Landing checklist.
FS21 FS.
Run our landing checklist.
Deep brake.
9 down.
Armed. Landing gear. Down. Flaps.
197 down.
Set. Checklist complete.
197 down. Right 1.
And yeah, we are
Down. Right 1. 209 down.
looking pretty good anyway.
210 down. Right 1. 217 down. Right 1. 209 down. Right 1.
1,000.
205 down.
Checked.
213 down. Right 1. 209 down. Right 1.
Why we're getting so much turbulence. I don't know if it's actually this turbulent or whether
196 down.
Sim Sounds is just overdoing it.
199 down.
Probably the latter, to be honest with you. I need to maybe
Right 1.
adjust my turbulence sound.
235 down. Right 1.
Seems to have a habit of being very over the top.
Right 1. 257 down. Right 1. 255 down. 259 down. Right 1. 258 down. Right 1. 202 down. Right 1. 194 down. Right 1. 156 down. Right 1. 149 down. Right 1. 135 down. Right 1.
300.
121
100 above.
Right 1.
Okay, there we go. Now GPWS is working. Continue.
65 down. Right 1. 66 down. Right 1. 69 down.
100.
Right 1. 67 down. Centered.
VNAV on, LNAV on, approach hold off.
Altitude lock active. Nav lock active. Approach mode off. Flight slow mode off.
20.
altitude. 600.
Retard. Retard. 10. 10.
Green very out.
Spoilers
And
lock.
touchdown. We'll just turn runway guidance on.
Reverse thrust.
Alright, reverse thrust.
91 knots.
80 knots.
75 knots. 59 knots.
Manual braking.
45 knots.
Versus out.
44 knots.
Actually, we'll just let the aircraft roll to a stop.
43 knots.
It's not going to roll to a stop, is it?
42 knots.
Speed mode off.
No, okay, I'll do some manual braking.
33 knots. 23 knots.
Please do remain seated with your
18
Autopilot can come off.
until
Flaps up.
reached our final
18 knots.
parking position and the fasten seatbelt signs
19 knots.
above you have been switched off. Please
12
leave your
knots.
cell phone switched off until you have left the aircraft. Thank you. Captain and the entire crew would like to thank you for being our guests today and say goodbye to you now. We hope you've enjoyed the flight with us and we wish you a pleasant remaining day, or just in case, a nice onward journey. Thank you once again. Bye bye, take care.
Okay, nice. So the auto land gauge all kicked in there and did the
Landing rate minus 141 feet per minute.
flare. We got negative 141. That's why you heard it talk about, nav lock off, approach mode off, or approach light off, because it just turned off the essentially the approach mode and just handled the touchdown. And yeah, it was pretty good. So let's find a gate here.
Jump to gate. Airport code gate blank. EGNX. 44 loaded. Gate 11. Number 11. Type gate media. In use.
That'll do.
Sound off. Submenu dialog window. Unpaused. Sound on. Locking Martin registered. Prepper 3D registered V5. Speed mode off.
Okay, and I think
Speed mode talk. FS tramp 41 column 3 307. Restart button. After NDG.
make sure we've done our after landing flow. I mean, the flaps are up. Yeah, it just needs to start the APU.
Lockheed Martin registered.
This aircraft could stop moving. That would be fabulous. You hold on the brakes.
Form 1 after NDG. Button. Voice APU at 100%. Connected button. Edit this 0 and VREF 0.
Right, so we can set up parking brakes. We'll listen to the.
Parking brake on.
I think first officer's probably going to shut us down.
Speed mode. Form 1 row.
Okay, I'll do the shutdown flow.
Shutdown CH KLSD button. Secure flow. Landing CH after ND. Restart button. Shutdown flow button. Number 1 ignition off. Number 1 fuel valve closed. Number 2 ignition off. Number 2 fuel valve closed. Fuel pump off.
All doors in park and cross-check.
Taxi off.
Thank you.
Beacon off. Flight director off. Number 1 generator off. Number 2 generator off.
Right, not bad. Yeah, and Sim Sounds is deboarding,
Lockheed Martin registered. Prepper 3D.
and we can. I don't think our engines are quite shut down yet. No, not quite yet. But in a minute, we will open the doors. So yeah, pretty textbook. The one thing we can do with Tramp is flip it back over to M1, ready for our next flight. It's always a good thing to do. And we can actually just close it. We don't need it anymore. We can open the doors. Do our secure flow.
Connected button. Edit this 0 and
Don't know why
after
it's
the
not
shutdown
doing
CH button. After the shutdown doesn't see secure flow button.
UFO, hello.
Restart. Shut. CFG NS action aborted. Action aborted unselected.
Okay, I don't know why it's not working. Anyway, there's not really much else we need to do. Our APU is shut down for all intents and purposes. We're on ground power. We can just flip off our
New weather updated. Decoded textual weather.
battery if we like. But yeah, pretty much now we could do some kind of turnaround and do another flight or whatever. So yeah, I mean that's how you do it. It's an interesting bit of software, FS Tramp, but it's for the freeware. If you really want to fly something different, it's about the best you're going to get for the moment until we get more aircraft supported, which obviously, you know, there is some difficulties with that, but it is possible. You just have to be a little bit more vigilant and pay attention to it a bit more and make sure it's doing what you expect it to do, and then you can kind of deal with it. So yeah. All right. Well, I hope that was useful. We can look at the fuel. We arrive with yeah £5,000, so pretty much spot on with the fuel, I guess. You know, some of the aircraft, as I say, have kind of slightly odd fuel burns, but this one is okay. So yeah, I hope it was useful. There's a lot more, I guess, that you can do with Tramp. You know, I didn't demo holding. I didn't demo kind of how to do obviously some things on VATSIM or with ATC, but it should be relatively straightforward. So, right, I'll see you in the next video, and have a good rest of your day.